Okay, this is Art Williams, your friend of mine, the Wandering Salsero, broadcasting live from International Wandering Salsero headquarters in beautiful Barranquilla, Colombia. The site is now open, and we're going to save a seat for Lady Madalyn, our Twitter expert. But if anybody'd like to, go ahead and come on in, and I'll let you introduce yourself. If you're an MLM, you can tell us a little bit about your business. Okay, so the center stage is open for any brave souls. I mean, that's what Blab's all about, right? Whoops. I guess it would help if I turned the screen on or took my little blinder off the screen. That's my little anti-NSA, CIA, low security device there, okay? So we got 10 viewers, it says. But something tells me that they've got their proxies here and that they're not actually here. Well, no, I shouldn't say that, because look here, we've got Madalyn, Diana Richardson, Bernard Sheave, Joel Hart, Advocates and ADA. Not sure what that means. Jackie Windish, I know her. Jackie is with a very good MLM company with a great product called Plexus. Talked to her sometime about the Plexus Lexus she's working for. Then there's me. I know me. Lewis Hogg. And who else is here? Lee Rickler. Okay, don't believe I know Lee, but I'll get to know him. All right. So, Madalyn, I think you can get on anytime you're ready. Just by way of preparation, what we want to do on this, what I wanted to do, my Skype is called MLMTalkLive, and I had the idea that what I wanted to do was talk about issues and news and opinions that would be of interest to people in network marketing. It's a huge business. Just about everybody's been in it once or the other. And, it's like any other business. Some people get all they want out of it, and some people don't. But I think no matter how much you get out of it financially, there's always something you can learn, even if it's something not to do again. But just in case you're wondering, my interest in it right now, I've recently signed up in one. I'm not here to talk about that, but I write for a magazine called Obtainer Online, obtainer-online.com. And interestingly enough, I met them through doing article writing gigs on Fiverr almost 2 years ago. And one thing led to another, and I've been writing for them for a while. We write about MLM and direct selling. A lot of it is MLM-centric. I beg your pardon, European-centric, because the guy that owns it is, at one time, was pretty prominent in the European side of MLM, which is a little different, actually, than the U.S. side. Okay. So one other thing I'll mention for anybody that sees this blab, there's always a possibility that if you have something to offer the MLM community, not only would I be glad to have you on the MLM Blab, what was it? MLM Talk Live show. But maybe we could even do an article about you and or your company in Obtainer, okay? I got no problem with that. So we got somebody else. Pretty picture just popped up here. Kyle Murray, social media manager, Tar Heel from North Carolina. By the way, Kyle, was North Carolina with the North or the South in the Civil War? I was talking to Christy Tolley yesterday about that, and we weren't sure. He focuses on healthcare. Well, that's good. Senior care, that's a big business. Home care, that also is a big business. And he's a dodgeballer. You mean that hasn't been outlawed by the PC crowd in your neighborhood yet? Wow. Well, somebody else just popped up here too. David Pepper. David, are you related? You have an uncle that's a doctor, don't you? Dr. Pepper? Or is it Colonel Pepper? Or both of them. Maybe they're both in the family. Content creation, hashtag TV, hashtag social media, hashtag social good. Join the World Say What? World Says What project. Well, that's interesting. And then we got a nice black and white picture there. Jacob Warwick. That's from is that from the Warwick Hotel family? Content manager, Hannigan Media. Hannigan. Is that an Irish word? Moderator for hashtag Inside Chat, copywriter, entrepreneur. Well, great. Okay. Madalyn, anytime you're ready, young lady, just give me a tickle on the screen here, okay? By the way, for those of you who don't know, Barranquilla, Colombia, is on the map. If you look on the map, actually, it's a little bit north of that place where Central America connects to South America, and it's the hometown of Shakira. Now, I only mention that because some people seem to relate to it. I'm not a big Shakira fan. Personally, I like dark-haired Latin American ladies. But amazingly enough, I found since I've been here that a lot of Colombians don't have dark hair. Imagine that. New message. Oh, okay. Okay. Anybody want to come in and say something about their business? Don't hesitate. Let's see. The South, okay. Okay. He says the South. That's nice to know. So apparently the most recent, Madalyn says, I'm almost ready. Hold on. Keep talking. This reminds me of some girls I had dates with in college. Okay. Kay says, one of the myths of the origin of Tar Heel is that Stonewall Jackson was complimenting the toughness of North Carolina soldiers at the Battle of Bull Run, but there's no reliable source he actually said that. Oh, that's like a lot of tradition, right? Okay. Kyle, you're everywhere. Let's see. Who else? I don't see your video, Art. Madalyn, if you don't... Well, I'm assuming you found my video, Madalyn, but, well, you would have to because your picture's here. Yeah. Hope I'm correct on that. Okay. Also, I'll tell you something else interesting. For any of you, those of you who might be dancers, in Colombia, they have a type of music here that is not really very well known outside the country, but it's really, really nice. If you happen to know anything about a Latin dance, it's very common in the U.S. salsa clubs called bachata, B-A-C-H-A-T-A, which is very nice. You can see lots of bachata videos on YouTube. They have a dance down here called vallenato, V-A-L-L-A-N-E-T-O, and it's really pretty, really pretty. Has a similar rhythm and a similar step to bachata, except vallenato has more accordion in it, which I think accordion is really nice in dance music. Let's see here. Okay. Mr. Let's see, Kyle. The flexibility of, okay, Madalyn is ready. All right, here we go, Madalyn. Everybody welcome Madalyn. Here she's coming.
Hello.
She's coming.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, welcome, Madalyn.
Oh, you guys are so sweet. Let me check my settings real quick. I think it has the wrong camera.
Testing.
It does have the wrong camera. I got to refresh. Hold on. I'm going to be like right.
Okay. I like Madalyn's banner in the back there. I should do something like that.
Okay. The right camera is on. Yay.
All right. Okay.
Can you guys hear me and see me okay?
I hear you fine.
Yay.
Why for yes.
I see that my fan club is here. Jacob. And we got Kyle's here and my buddy David. David is so cool. Like, well, all of these guys are cool, but David, like, has reached out to me and he said, and he like direct messaged me on Twitter the other day. He's like, I just want to chat with you. Let's just chat. And we had the nicest conversation. And that's what I love about Twitter. I mean, Twitter is like, and that's how we met. Art was on Blab talking about Twitter when I was being interviewed for that 2.5 marathon chat, which was so much fun. And I love how you just like asked, like, hey, can I interview you for this?
Madalyn, would you show everybody that pretty little bracelet on your left hand?
I'm trying to maneuver around this one right here.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, this is from a really, and I have all my little tattoos. I love this one, Faith. I love that. It's a great tattoo. I like looking at that and reminding myself about, and in my newest one, I have, this is really cool. I'll tell a real quick story, and then I'll talk about the bracelet. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but have you heard about that thing where, like what some people do is on the first of the year, you pick a word and you make it your word for the year? like just one word. And so for January 1st, I said, my word for this year is conquer. And I just want everything I do in business be about just, and it's just a me thing, but like, I just want to conquer all the things I want to do, all the things I set out to do. And I've been wanting to do this Twitter Smarter podcast for the last 2 years, and it's time consuming. I've done podcasts. It's time consuming. I love it, but it, it's a project, and I said to myself, I'm going to just do it. And I feel like now that I've done it and am continuing to do it, that my word conquer has really come to life, because it's been kind of like that thing on the back burner. I don't like really think about it all the time, but I just know like that's my thing. That's what I want to achieve, is I just want to conquer everything. And I've been doing this major pivot. I mean, you guys are all now seeing me as this, Twitter expert, this online marketing person. I come from the music business world. I've spent the last 19 years being an online marketer, a little bit with small businesses and entrepreneurs, but mostly with musicians and music business people and companies. And I've done this major pivot in my business. And so by doing this podcast, it's now allowing me to reach all these people I'm trying to reach. So my word conquer is really coming to life. And the other thing I did is I've started this new thing. You guys saw on my left arm when I was showing the bracelet. I got all these tattoos on my left arm now, and it's just crazy because it's adding up. And so my birthday's in January, and so this is the third year in a row where I get a tattoo on my birthday, and I usually come up with something really unique. And so what I came up with was 4 words for the year also. So it's kind of separate from the conquer thing. So I came up with like my 4 pillars for this year, and I had them tattooed on my arm. Is gratitude, passion, greatness, and love. And so it's like a ring around my arm here. I've got these words, and my favorite on here is the gratitude, passion, and greatness, because I feel like I have so much passion for what I do. That's just the type of person that I am. No matter what it is I'm doing, I always put a lot of passion into it. And the reward I'm getting right now is greatness. Like, it's just, like having here right now, having Kyle and Jacob and David here supporting me, because, we've been all tweeting back and forth since yesterday during my Twitter chat. And I mentioned that I'm going to be on this blab today with you, Art. And so they wanted to know the link. They wanted to come support me. And I'm sorry, I haven't really been focusing on the chat box. I haven't really looked at what all everybody's saying just yet. But I mean, this is like right here, the power of Twitter and the power of using a platform like Blab to bring it all together. And we get to sit here and be face to face. And I know earlier, Art, you were inviting some of these guys to come on. And I would love to, if we could take a few minutes and give everybody a chance just for a minute, just to come on so we can see them face to face. That is the beauty of this platform. It's like taking Skype to like the 10th degree,
Let's do that right now, and let's give them just enough time to do it. If they don't, then that's fine, because really I want it to be about you, so that you can get an MLM or something. Okay, anybody wants to come on, go ahead and do it. We're going to keep part the curtains for a little while here.
I would love to see my boys that I've become such good friends with now through Twitter.
Okay, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey, how we doing today?
Good to see you. See, it's so nice to now see you face to face.
Right. It's nice to put the picture with the account and everything.
It's so cool, because I do a lot of video things. I do a lot. I mean, I do Periscope, and I did Meerkat for a long time. And so everybody sees me, which is cool, but like, I want to see you guys too.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Kyle, I'm gonna let you go back off stage, and then let David introduce himself. And then if somebody else wants to come, we'll let him do it. Okay.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks, Kyle. All right, David, my buddy David.
You're gonna follow.
And Jacob, you need to be next. Yeah, sometimes it takes a minute for the video to come on. I've noticed with Blab.
Okay, who's next?
And who else do we have here?
Here we go. David Prepper. David
Asaki.
Pepper. David Pepper. He's having a landing problem, it looks like.
Okay.
Okay,
David,
who
you
else
might
wants
need
to
a
come on?
refresh or something. Sometimes refreshing. Here's what I've noticed. If somebody has a problem, oh, there he
Hey,
is.
David.
Got it.
Hi, buddy. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming over here.
Buenas
Okay.
noches, Art. How are you?
Very good. David, are you an MLM?
I am not.
Okay, no problem.
I am not. I am a content creator.
Okay.
As it says in my bio, I'm actually a TV guy. I produced a TV show for a few years on PBS here, public television.
Sure.
And now we're creating content for social media. And we're doing a nonprofit that you read about called World Says What. It's really a simple idea. It's sort of a social good project where we ask one question and we get people from all over the world to answer the same question.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
It is interesting. Maybe you could be a contributor from Colombia. We need a representative from Colombia. What do you think?
Well, I will tell you this. I was thinking, I went out to have lunch just before I came on the show, and I was thinking somebody ought to start a show where everybody who calls in is somebody who either lives in a particular city or who has been there, and then just talk about it. I mean, I think it would be really good for people who are interested in travel. Let's get back to Madalyn, okay?
Thanks, David.
Okay,
Yeah,
David, I'm gonna let you stay on the screen since you're
that's
there.
okay.
We got one more spot open. Now, let me just mention this. If anybody wants to ask a question, my suggestion, because I like to keep my eye on the screen, I like to just do this because we can all see that. Madalyn, I wonder if you would mind, I'm sure you know a lot of things about Twitter that we don't know. Can you tell us something about the background of Twitter and then bring us up to today?
Background like
How
what?
it started, how old is it? It's one of the older social media platforms, isn't it?
Yeah. So from what I know, I started in 2008. So my understanding was in 2007 at South by Southwest Interactive, that was like when the techies were first. And if anybody knows, I see down here that Kyle just says it's been around since 2007. And so, yeah, that's my understanding is 2007. I heard about it 2008 from South by Southwest Interactive. So it seemed like for about a year, a small group of techie people were into it. And then, hey, Jackie, thanks for joining us. And then it seemed like 2008 was when a lot more people started getting on there. And that's when I got on. And a month later, I went to a music conference, a really big one in LA. And it was so new. I didn't really know. I knew a few people that were on it. And so I actually live tweeted at a music conference. And nobody had live tweeted anything to my knowledge yet at an event. But here I was, John Bon Jovi was the guest. And I was on my BlackBerry. No, I was on my new iPhone. I just switched from a BlackBerry to an iPhone. And I just started tweeting everything he was saying. And I didn't know anybody that was doing this, but by the end of the conference, word had gotten out that somebody was doing this new microblogging, because that's what it was called back then, microblogging. And because I was there to blog, I was there to do live blogging for my community, my music community. So that was when the bug bit me. I was so hooked on it. I thought, what a great way to use a platform to do 140 characters, and a lot of people do not like that. And I totally get that. I like the short format. I like that you use it to get to the point, and it's interesting because in my podcast, I had a really good episode with Keith Quisenberry, who is a professor of social media at Johns Hopkins University. And he talked about how you can still storytell on Twitter. You just have to spread it out, because you only have your 140 characters. But Twitter has really evolved over the years. And now, you look at it, it's huge. A lot of people use it. You cannot go to a conference or event and not see somebody. Everybody's tweeting at an event, and it brings us all together. I look at this group here, and so many people here that are chatting, we've met from my Twitter chat, my Twitter Smarter Twitter chat, which evolved from my podcast. And all of this has happened in just the past 2 months. I mean, the podcast has only been out for 2 months. The Twitter chat, just the one we just did yesterday with Kim Garst, which was amazing, was our 6th week. It's only been around for 6 weeks. And with the podcast today, just right before this, I interviewed Maury Smith. So of all the people I've interviewed, she was number 34, the 34th person I interviewed. She's like the biggest name of everybody I've interviewed. So it's just this amazing thing I'm doing right now where I'm connecting with all these people. And all these people I connected with through Twitter.
David has a question.
I was going to ask Madalyn, what is the most common way you are getting your guests? Is it just a direct message or just a cold tweet? How do you make that happen?
Here's the main way. It's been different ways, but the bulk of it is I'll be maybe it'll be like I tweeted an article from somebody, and one of the things I preach constantly is you got to tag the person. You have to tag them. If you don't tag them, they don't know you're talking about them. I mean, certainly like, a Kim Garst or a Maury Smith could certainly go on the Twitter search bar and go type in their name and see, but really who does that? I mean, most people don't think to do that. So if you're not notified with the mention, the at, what we call the at mention, where you do at in the name. So, what I've done is I will sit here and tag somebody, whether it's an article they wrote or I reply to something they're saying, I jump into the conversation. And then what I do is by the way, I would love to interview you. Here's an example. So yesterday, there was an article I was reading. It's she's the attorney. Is it Carrie Gorgon O'Shea or something? Does that ring a bell? Okay, I'd have to pull her up to get the exact name. Anyway, she's all over Twitter. She's, I believe she's an attorney, so she writes more on the legal side, but she had this article out. It was very good. And so I made sure I put via at in her Twitter handle. And yes, you got to take a few extra seconds and go pull up their Twitter handle and make sure you put the right one in. And so she replied back and thanked me and that's a very typical scenario. So what I did, and this is why it's so important to have a good Twitter bio. And that's the other thing I'm always preaching, because I looked at her bio and I already know about her, and I've already actually reached out to her once before on Twitter and she didn't respond. So when she responded to me this way, that's always a good segue into, hey, I would love to interview you for my Twitter Tips podcast. Are you interested? When I did this yesterday, she immediately responded, said yes. And I said, can you please DM me your email? And instead, she just tweeted her email, and I emailed her. And that's a typical scenario. And it's funny because Kim Garst, who I just interviewed, and I just had her on the podcast, I reached out on Twitter, and I've connected with her on Twitter before. That didn't work. I tried different methods, and all of them failed. So one day I was on LinkedIn, and I thought, I remember seeing her on there, and I thought, why don't I try sending her a message on LinkedIn? And that worked. Like everything else didn't work. And I rarely will do the LinkedIn message because that rarely works for me. Like I've rarely gotten somebody respond back when I say, hey, I'd like to interview you. So I think people just don't check their messages very often on LinkedIn, because I don't check mine very often. But it worked. So it's really interesting what works and what doesn't, but most times it's from Twitter.
Would you describe Twitter as a very complicated process?
No, I think it's simple because, you got the 140 characters. You just got your little box. You type in what you want to say. It's pretty simple. It's just knowing some of the key things, like I was mentioning, tagging people. If you want to get noticed, you got to tag the person you're talking about. Like, for instance, the way you set up the title for this blab, you put at Madalyn Sklar, and that's really important because when you were tweeting it out earlier to promote it, I saw every one of those tweets. I retweeted one of them. When all of us here hit the tell a little bird on our computers and it tweets it out, it's going to, I love the feature with Blab that it tags all of us automatically. I think that's really cool. having a good bio is so extremely important, because people are going to go look at your bio and see who you are and what you do. So, but it's simple in the sense that there's not a lot to it. It's not like Facebook where, there's all these different things you can do and there's a process and you got to do it this way or that way. You get on Twitter and it's like, okay, you just say what you want to say. You can throw in a picture if you want. Not much to it.
I'll say that I was, I've learned more about Twitter in the last probably 5 days than I've learned in the last 5 years, because I see it's integrated into this platform. But I've noticed in the Twitter profiles that there's a lot of people there that might be in some type of network marketing or direct sales, but they seem a little reluctant to say it. And I think that's a big mistake, because it's like, I'm sure there's even some people that don't like cake decorators, but there's a lot of people that do. So you may as well, if you're in a business that's as big as network marketing,
everybody likes cake decorators.
We do. We like cake decorators. I agree.
Now you have a Twitter product, right?
I do. I have a course called Twitter Smarter. Like, I'm real big with branding and like picking something that says it all. So I have a course called Twitter Smarter. So it's twittersmarterclass.com. And over there is basically the way I do this, and I'm going to do a new live class soon. What I'll do is I'll do a live course. I'll do a 4-week live training course. It's webinars. You pay a fee. You come on to my class live. You can and I use GoToWebinar, so you can it's like you're standing here over my shoulder looking on my screen. I walk you through everything. I explain it in great detail. You can ask questions live while I'm doing it, and I provide worksheets, to-do lists. There's a private Facebook group. I'm a big believer in over-delivering. For 19 years I've been an entrepreneur. I'm all about over-delivering everything I do. So when people pay the fee, they don't just pay the fee and here's your class and you never hear from me again. There's the private Facebook where you can ask questions. I send out information on a regular basis. And right now there's 3 versions of the course. Every time I go do an updated one, it goes into the website where the course materials are at. So, and then I'll invite everybody if they want to come to the live training. So you got the people that sign up that pay the first time. And then over here, all the people that paid before are invited at no charge. And that's just the way I believe in doing business. Now, I am working on a new course, a brand new one that'll be completely separate. I'm not 100% sure this is going to be the name, but it's probably going to be called Tweeting for Profits. And I kind of want something that's the next level, because my Twitter Smarter class is more for beginners or for people who are on Twitter but have not really mastered it and really need some help with how to do really good tweets that get you attention, how to get on people's radar, how to build your tribe, building your community, what are the best tools. One of the modules, I basically open up the curtain and show you all the tools I use and walk you through step by step how I do each one and how they all tie in together. And so, it's been a really great course and a lot of people really like it. But now I want to do something that's a little bit more advanced, but also on the selling side of things. Like you got Kim Garst, who's all about social selling. So I want to build a course that's like that's social selling, like how to actually monetize Twitter. And the course is not going to be like, oh, if you tweet this, you're going to make money. It's not like that at all. It's about building relationships and how to do things properly that will in turn help you make money through this. Because we look at my podcast and my Twitter chat. All these connections I'm making is from Twitter. And through that, I earn a good living. So that's what I'm going to teach is what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
Can you talk some more about using Twitter as a cold call prospecting tool?
Well, okay. So what I will say is people need to stop doing these auto DMs because they're doing it as the cold calling method does not work. It is the worst thing you could possibly do. When I was talking to Mari Smith just now, we were talking about that too. And I mean, she just shook her head and she said, I don't know why people do this. Because of it, she said it causes her to not even use the DM.
Would you define that, please, first?
Yeah, DM is your direct message. So that's your basically your private inbox. You've got your Twitter feed. So when people message you, like you do at Madalyn Sklar, it's public on Twitter. I see it, you see it, everybody sees it, but it's a good way to communicate with somebody and have a conversation. Just know that it's public. Now, if you want to do a direct message, you can go in, on Twitter, there's a place on there to direct message, but also a tip is you could always put the letter D and then a space and then at and the person's name. So you could do D space at Madalyn Sklar. And that will send me a direct message. It's kind of like a shortcut. Basically, in the olden days of Twitter, that was the only way you could do a direct message. So because I've been on Twitter so long, I still remember the old way we did it, and it still works. So I could go over to your Twitter page, and if I'm doing a reply, and I do, at and your Twitter handle, I might say to myself, well, wait a minute, maybe this tweet should be private, so I could just put that letter D in front of it. But it's got to be a D and a space.
I had an
in the Twitter handle.
I was trying to be courteous and thank people for following me, and I started to get a large amount of followers every day, 20 or 30, and I got a notification. And I immediately sent, it wasn't auto DM at all. It wasn't even a DM. It was just a tweet. But I did it. I did it immediately. Thanks for following, whatever I said. And I got a nasty response saying, stop with the auto DM. I responded.
You weren't actually auto DMing.
They thought it happened so quickly. They thought it was, I try to personalize it, maybe take something from somebody's bio to let them know it's not automatic and I'm actually speaking to them. But I got outsmarted by being so responsive. Somebody accused me of DMing when I was, or auto responding when I wasn't. So that's just a little caution.
I've got a question I wanted to ask you. I've noticed on the Twitter page that in the upper left-hand corner, there's two little horizontal blue buttons there. And one says, there's two different names for it. You guys pop in if you want, but one of them says direct message this person or something like that, and then the other one says tweet her. And I'm not sure what the difference is. Do you know the blue buttons I'm talking about?
On somebody's page?
Yeah, tell me where you're at.
He's referring to, like, it's just under the Twitter profile. It's so if you visit somebody's page, it says tweet to or direct message. The difference is tweet can be seen by anybody. Well, it depends on the followers of each person, but if you were to mention somebody, so let's say I wanted to tweet at Madalyn. If I tweet at her, only the people that follow both of us will see it. Because if somebody's following Madalyn but doesn't follow me, it won't appear on their timeline. It has to be following both. Direct message is only possible if you both follow each other. So, or if they follow you, you can message them.
Is that still true? Because I thought you can now DM anybody.
Well, there is, but you have to check a box in the settings to do that. Yeah. So, it's defaulted to not be automatic like that. You still have to, have them follow you. But you can go in and check a box. Well,
the reason I asked that is because it made sense to me to try to get as much data out of those Twitter profiles as possible when I was looking for people for this show. And I would prefer not to have everybody and their grandmother know that I had asked that person if they wanted to be on my show. But both of the nomenclature on both of those buttons sort of implied that it went directly to them, but it wasn't clear whether it was only to them or not. So I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this kind of goes back to your question before that about the cold calling. And so it relates back to the story I was telling earlier where, I share an article with somebody, I put at in their handle, which gets their attention. And I wasn't doing it specifically to get her attention, the attorney. I liked her article, and it's just the style of how I do it. I want to give them the props. And in the process, it gets me on their radar. I mean, that's what I try to explain people, and this is what I teach in my course. Like, there's a whole method to this. So while I don't really know her personally, I know of her. I don't know if she knows who I am at all. So to me, it is kind of a cold calling method, but I'm doing it to, number one, share good content with my community. So I saw an article yesterday. I wanted to share it. I tagged her because that's what I do. But in that process, I'm kind of cold calling because I get on her radar. She saw it. She thanked me. And now that opened the doorway to now have this be a warm call. And let me throw in the, hey, I would love to interview you. And it totally worked, but that wasn't my true intention from the start. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this to open the doorway, but it can work out that way. There are, ways you can go about doing this. And then there's the advanced Twitter search, which is, I don't think most people know about it. And it's a great way to hone in on your target audience.
So would you say that Twitter could be used as sort of the top of a sales funnel if you know what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
It can be.
I'm going to jump off and make some room for somebody else.
Thank you, buddy.
Good to see everybody. Nice
Thanks,
to meet
David.
you, Art, Kyle,
Bye-bye.
Madalyn.
Thanks, David. And Kyle, you made a good point earlier. I'm looking at the chat box, and when you first heard about Twitter, when that whole journalist in Egypt, and that, I remember when that happened. So I had been on Twitter. It wasn't mainstream yet, but what made it mainstream was two things. It was that thing that happened in Egypt because CNN covered it. And when CNN did that, it pretty much exploded. I don't know if you remember back then, but CNN all of a sudden would do a ticker thing and, with tweets, and they would do the thing on the side that would be at CNN, and it really grabbed attention, and people were like, whoa, what's this? And it really kind of put it on the map. Here comes Jacob. And then the second thing was when Ellen started promoting Twitter. All of a sudden, Ellen DeGeneres was like, check out this Twitter thing, and people just jumped. There he is. Hey, Jacob. Nice to meet you in person.
Howdy.
Finally. Howdy. And who's that?
Oh, this is my dog, Owen.
Hey, Owen.
Yeah.
My dog is sleeping over here. He's not going to get up for this.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, Jacob, I love all the stuff you do over at Honigman Media. It's been nice getting to know you on the chats. I'm a big fan of Brian Honigman, who I met on Twitter. It was really interesting because I love his articles, and I just was constantly sharing his articles. And as I mentioned before, when I'm sharing articles, I'm going to put via at and tag the person. And so I was always tagging Brian. So I'm sure over time he was probably like, who's this Madalyn girl? She's always tagging me in her tweets.
Yeah, so funny thing, that kind of happened to me. I was sharing some of his articles about 6 months ago on Twitter and on LinkedIn. And then one day he just sent me a direct message on LinkedIn and hired me.
Wow, that's awesome.
So if that helps figure out how effective social can be, that's kind of how that went down. And now I write articles for Entrepreneur and all kinds of connections that I would have normally never been able to accomplish so quickly.
Wow.
I was going to say earlier with LinkedIn, I wish their notification system worked a little bit like Twitter's or Facebook's, where it's instant. So a lot of times there will be notifications where somebody is either looking at a profile or send you a message or add you, and it's just I'll get it 2 days later. The only time I might see it when it's immediate is if I'm checking my LinkedIn. So I don't know why that's not streamlined as well as the other platforms. And it's just funny you mentioned the job thing through LinkedIn, Jacob, because I had a company actually contact me earlier today that's in Beverly Hills, and they want to talk about me managing their social media platforms. And what's crazy about it is oh yeah, we just found you on LinkedIn. Because I put everything on there, all the Twitter chats I'm involved with in healthcare, and
you just let it happen.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, that is the power of these platforms. And now with Blab, I think it's going to open it up even more because, now this is like taking it to the new level where, we've had Skype for like how long? Skype's been around a long time, right?
Yeah.
But we did that with family and friends. And you had the Google Plus Hangouts, which were okay. I loved the concept, but the execution of it was terrible.
It's really funny because we had a Blab last week with Aaron McKay, who has like a pretty big following on not only Twitter, but she has like over 100,000 followers on Google Plus. And she was talking about how at first, when the devs were really involved with it and active, it was actually a fairly good concept, and then it kind of got diluted with a lot of people just like trolling the site, or basically what she calls the medication crowd, that people that they're just off their rocker. And the problem was that two main devs that were on it, I don't know their names specifically, but she had mentioned them, left. And I guess they either never replaced the two people that were working with it, or they just didn't want to invest time in it, but they basically just let it deteriorate. And so, yeah, like you said, it started off as a good concept and then just kind of fell apart. So it's interesting that we now have Blab, and we'll see where it goes. So, yeah.
Google's always made that.
Madalyn, can you? I would love. I mean, I'd like to know myself, but I wonder if you would be interested at some point in the future in discussing some prominent or really important Twitter tools, like, for example, comparing Hootsuite to TweetDeck. I believe you said the other day that TweetDeck, although it was sort of endorsed by Twitter, Hootsuite was actually popular. But and so just yesterday, I looked at both of them. And I don't really know enough to make an intelligent decision about which one I might want to use, but I'm wondering if I should learn how to use one or the other of them.
Oh, sure. I mean, what do you guys use? I've been a Hootsuite girl ever since it came out. I'm actually a Hootsuite ambassador. But here's what's interesting. So I've now interviewed 34 people for my podcast, my Twitter Smarter podcast. The last question I ask is, what are your favorite tools and apps? And a lot of people have said TweetDeck. And I assumed everybody would be like me and say Hootsuite, because TweetDeck went through this period where it kind of like, I don't know if it shut down, but it kind of went away for a while. What happened was it emerged back being owned by Twitter. Twitter took it over. Yeah. So like when I interviewed Brian, for instance, he mentioned that he uses TweetDeck, and he said that because it's owned by Twitter, it works really well. Like you're not going to have problems because it's part of Twitter. And that made perfect sense. And I didn't realize that. I've just been devoted to Hootsuite. I'm not going to leave Hootsuite as my preferred. But Art, what I always counsel people when they ask this question is try them both, see what works for you. That's always the best way, because you might like Hootsuite when you're using it. You might say, wow, I like the interface of Hootsuite. I remember when TweetDeck came out. I remember when they both came out, but I remember TweetDeck, to me, it was dark. It had this, it was like, I don't know if any of you guys were on it way back a long time ago, but it was like this black screen with the columns. And I didn't like that. I did not like the interface of it. And Hootsuite just looked nicer to me. So I went with Hootsuite. It was a preference thing.
Platform, I think. But go ahead, Jacob. Go ahead and.
Oh yeah, in my experience, TweetDeck I think is great for running Twitter chats, because you can just keep an eye on everything. And I've managed to do 2 or 3 Twitter chats at one time and stay pretty consistent with it, especially if you've had enough coffee. So TweetDeck's great. I don't know if there's is there a paid feature to it? Because
on TweetDeck, I don't think so. Not that I know of. I mean, Hootsuite does, but I don't.
But there are different platforms we're talking about here. Like Hootsuite is like you can use scheduling for it.
Yeah, that's more
same
of a
as
scheduling
Buffer
for me. Yeah.
So my big thing isn't between TweetDeck and Hootsuite. Sorry, they're all going to sound alike, so just kind of get used to it. But my thing is between Buffer and Hootsuite, and Buffer's really affordable. I mean, it's $10 a month, and then if you buy it a year, it's $102. So whatever, you can schedule 100 tweets at a time. I do 15 or 20 a day and just let it roll, right? You can sync in your RSS feeds and only tweet from like trusted providers. So I'll have like Madalyn on my list and Brian and Forbes magazine and people I can trust where the content's coming from. That way I don't have to vet it all. Right. There's no way I'm going to read 20 freaking articles a day.
Right, I'm the same way. See, what I do is I use Hootsuite to to just watch everything, to see what's going on through my list. I have lists set up, which I finding that a lot of people are not utilizing that either. And it's like lists.
Yeah, lists are great.
Yeah, I couldn't stay organized on Twitter if I didn't have Twitter lists. So I use Hootsuite more as a listening tool, a social listening tool. So I look to see what's being said, what's going on, but I do the scheduling over at Buffer. I love Buffer. I love the way they're set up. I also do the $10 paid account because I have my schedule set up to tweet out 18 times a day. So those will be my articles and things that I set up. And then that gives me the time to go and engage. And then the other thing I got set up on a few months ago, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, is called Tweet Jukebox. Have you all heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I've not really looked into it.
Okay, well, it's free right now. They're going to come up with a paid version, I think, next year. But it's so cool. And again, this goes back to the interviews I've been doing with all of these social media experts on my podcast. Like, I've heard of Tweet Jukebox, but it was just I was like, okay, I'm good the way I've got my thing going. I don't need another thing. But I just had guest after guest. When I would say, what are your favorite tools? I kept hearing Tweet Jukebox. Well, what happened was when I had, who was it? It was, looking at my calendar here, Britt Michaelian. When I had Britt Michaelian on, I think she was like the fourth or fifth person. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go check out this Tweet Jukebox because too many of these people who are my colleagues are all about Tweet Jukebox. So I went over there and holy cow, this thing is an amazing tool for scheduling. It takes it to a whole new level. So all I'm going to say is just go and check it out. It's free and you might see some really great benefit the way I am. And I actually interviewed the CEO of the company for my podcast. And this just goes back to using Twitter. Like I used the platform. I liked it. So you know what I did? He's very visible. I mean, you cannot miss him. His Twitter handle is Alphabet Success because that's the name of his book he wrote. His name is Tim Fargo. And I've had people say he's very accessible. So I tweeted him and I said, I want to interview you for my podcast. I don't know him. And I tweeted him. He said, sure. And now we've become pretty good friends. We email all the time, and we're actually going to do some work together. So and that was
cool.
That was a cold tweet. I didn't know him. I didn't do the let me tweet out one of his articles and use that to get in. I just flat out sent him a tweet.
I think a lot of business people are probably that way. You can ask me. I don't mind saying no.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are accessible. I mean, when I'm coaching somebody and they say, well, here are the people I want to reach out to. I said, see if they're on Twitter. If they're using Twitter, you can go and access them there, if they're active on there.
Madalyn, I have a question. Is there ever a proper time for having multiple Twitter identities?
The thing is with that, there are times when it's good and necessary, and I think it'd be great to have Jacob talk about it because, he works for a company called Honigman Media, and so you got Brian Honigman, who is very well known, and he has his, and he uses it for business, but he also has Honigman Media, which I'm sure, Jacob, you're running that, right? Do you run the Honigman Media?
That's all him.
It is? Okay.
He's unbelievable at how much he gets done. It blows my mind.
He's a great guy. For years, I ran multiple, like I had my personal, my Madalyn Sklar, and then I had a business one. Yeah. And then what I started realizing was I'm doubling my work. And I actually had 4. At one time, I had 4 for me. And it was overload. And what you have to keep in mind is it's just doubling or tripling or quadrupling your work. So then you have to look at, what is your brand? What is your message? If it all can be tied into you, as Art Williams, well, that's the best way to go.
Here's the reason I ask is because my politics are very, very libertarian, conservative, Christian. stuff like that. And I know that turns some people off. I ain't changing. I can tell you that. But I use I do a lot of curating. I use Scoop It, and when I got in, you could have up to 5 social accounts. So when I find an article that I like, I get a lot of stuff off WorldNet Daily and Infowars.com and some stuff like that. But if I see an article I like, I click the little chiclet up on my bookmarks bar, and then over in the upper right-hand corner of my screen, the article interface comes on. There's the article. I can change the picture if I want, and then I curate my comments, and then down at the bottom I have my selection. Of course, it's the same 5 checked all the time, and then it goes out. But one of the things that it goes on is my Twitter. As a matter of fact, you might have even already seen them. But I know that some people they either don't have any interest or might disagree. But I'm wondering if I needed another Twitter ID for that purpose.
Hold on, I'm trying to type in a comment real quick. That's a good question, and I think in that situation, yes, I think you should have a separate one for business. If you're going to use your personal handle for personal things and what you were describing, you can turn off people, and that could affect your business. And so it would be better to have a separate one specifically for your business, so you can keep doing the things on your personal one that you want to keep doing. You still do your business stuff on there.
Unless I decide I just don't care.
Right. Well, that too.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that comes back to personal branding and the audience you're trying to attract, and all those areas as well.
Yeah. Well, we got 9 minutes. Madalyn, are there any other ideas on using Twitter for people in network marketing or direct selling that that maybe we haven't touched that you'd like to throw on the table?
I'm sure there's some Twitter chats. Have you gone and investigated that to see if there's some Twitter chats out there specifically for people in that market?
There definitely are. I'll pull up the calendar real quick. So
okay, because I imagine there's probably a handful of them, because network marketing is such MLM, that's such a big thing, and it's been around for so long. And they probably have some that are segmented to very specific. Like if you're doing Amway, there's probably one specifically for Amway people. I'm just trying to throw an example, but I think Twitter chats. Oh yeah, where'd you put it? Oh, over here. You're pointing this way, which is pointing to the Tell a Little Bird section. Okay. It's so weird how it's backwards on here. I don't like that.
Okay, so I should be pointing this way?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's pointing to the Tell. Okay.
I know. It's so weird.
I left the link that I used a while ago, and I think there should be some MLM ones in here. So there's an MLM chat, chat, social media.
But this Twitter chat schedule, this is a really good list here. This is a very comprehensive list. I think Twitter lists are really like the best thing. Like that is where you really can connect with people that you end up becoming really good friends with and colleagues with. Simply because for what I have found with Twitter lists is, okay, so in the music community, I've been running a Twitter chat over there for musicians and music business professionals every week for 4 years. So I have a lot of experience with Twitter chats. People come over to my new Twitter Smarter chat and they're like, wow, Madalyn, you're so good at this. Well, I'm like, yeah, I've been doing this for 4 years. People, just don't know that, outside of my music community. But what I have found with that, people will come and go at chats. People come and go. But those like-minded people that you're trying to find, they're going to stay. And then you're going to build this amazing community of people. So that's why it's actually great to start your own. But what I would do is go seek out what's out there and see, you might find one that's perfect for you, and that you've like, wow, these are my people. These are the people I've been looking for. And that can help your business. Or you just go start your own.
Okay. Well, I think that's about all I have. We're just slightly less than an hour right now. And I think, Madalyn, you were great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad you came on the blab I was being interviewed on last week. Or no, actually, it was this week. It was Monday. Gosh, That was so much fun. Yeah. Have you been blabbing yet, Jacob? Have you been?
This is my first blab.
Really?
I did a Periscope for 9.5 minutes talking to folks about marketing just to practice with it.
Yeah.
Brian likes to do these things where he says, "Hey, write about Periscope. You're an expert. You have 4 hours to figure out this article."
Well, here's what I was saying about. Okay, so when I was doing the blab on Monday, here's what I said about Periscope. Art, have you been on Periscope?
I have not. No, but I'm in Colombia, and so my thinking is this might not be practical for me to do periscopes and things that take a lot of bandwidth because it's a different situation down here.
Right. Yeah, and it is a lot of bandwidth. Here's the thing about Periscope. I mean, I jumped on Meerkat when it was new, then I got on Periscope, and a lot of people are just now discovering it. And I saw Brian's first Periscope, and boy, did he nail it. And it was obvious that he watched a lot of others first, so he knew like the do's and don'ts, which is actually my best advice for Blab and Periscope and Meerkat for anybody that's listening here. If you're going to get into that, watch a bunch of them first so you can learn, like, because you're going to watch some people go, you're going to watch somebody and go, oh my God, I am not going to ever do a Periscope like this guy's doing it. Like, people do some really stupid things that you're like, oh, I can do better than that. So it can be very helpful. But here's the thing about Periscope. You're holding your phone and you're basically staring at yourself because the whole phone is the video of you, and at the very bottom is the chat box. But you're mostly like looking at yourself talking is a little weird. Now, I've been a public speaker for a long time, so it's easy for me to do. But for a lot of people, they look at this and they go, oh, wow, this was so weird. Like, I'm just staring at my face the whole time, and I don't know what to say or do. I like this format better because while you can do your phone for Blab, most of us are sitting at our computer. I got my nice external webcam, so it's an HD webcam. I got my nice podcast mic here because why not? Why not have good audio for this? And this is a great format. Like, you're not by yourself with everybody staring at you. You've got other people talking. And here's what a lot of my colleagues are saying, and it's certainly what I say. This is what Hangouts should have been.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm ready to say adios.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on.
You're very welcome. Okay. Well, here we go then. Talk to you all later.
Okay.
Yeah, bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye. Good to meet you, Jacob. This was fun.
Nice to meet you, Madalyn. You too, Art.
Bye, Art.